Welcome everyone. I'm Carlos Carbonell, illustrator. This is a tutorial for the Structures feature in Rebelle. I will explain how to use it. Use your Rebelle Papers as structures, to create new structures, the right settings, and how to use any texture you already own. I will also tell you how to use any texture, make it seamless and use it as art surface and structure at the same time. At final chapter, I will show you how to use structures in a real painting. Structures is my preferred new feature in Rebelle 7. Once you understand the workflow, only your imagination will be the limit. Structures is a new feature added in Rebelle 7. With it, you can add new textures to your canvas, so you can have different textures which may affect your brush strokes. By default, Rebelle only show one structure at a time, but you can show as many structures as you wish. This is not like paper cut or paper craft, it only works with your canvas. This is more like a nice texturing tool. You can edit any structure, change the size, the rotation, and even invert it to change the texture. Let's start. In Rebelle, open the Structures panel, in the Window menu or press Shift-S. In that panel, press the Library button to show your installed structures. You can also drag any texture from your desktop to this panel, in this case it will be only available in your current artwork. Click on any structure, and it will be displayed on your canvas. Now you are in edit mode. You can rotate, scale, flip or invert the texture. When you press enter, the structure will be attached to the canvas. You can keep adding new structures. By default, only one structure is displayed. To show more structures at the same time, right-click over the structure icon and uncheck the hide option. Now, any brush that it's influenced by the art surface, it will be also influenced by the structure. Use any of the default brushes in oil and watercolor categories that have the word dry in the name. Almost all dry media brushes such pencil and pastel will be affected. Test which brushes you can use, some are more affected than others. When you use watercolor, you can open the visual settings and change the texture influence setting. Higher values like 9 or 10 will affect a lot the watercolor. Medium values like 5 will barely affect it. If you add more water to your watercolor brush and change the canvas tilt, it will affect even more the watercolor. If you have an area painted with thick oil, this will overlap your canvas, so art surface and structures will not take any effect. To use your structures again, you must create a new layer and paint here. To add a structure to your current artwork, open the Structures panel, then drag here any texture in PNG or JPG format into that panel. You can add any texture to your library. To do that, go to Help menu and select the option Show Library folder. This will show your Rebelle Resources folder. This is a common task in this tutorial, so remember it. Open the folder Structures. I created a new folder called Tests and dropped the texture here. The next time you open Rebelle, you will see that texture in the Structures panel, inside the Tests group. You can use any of your Rebelle paper as structure. To do that, select any paper in the canvas settings. I selected one of the Canaf papers, which may be rewarded to you in the pre-release promo of Rebelle 7. Use white as the paper color. You can use any other color, but it will be easier with white. On Visual Settings, set the paper texture to maximum value. Save your artwork as PNG. I use the same name of the paper. Open it with any image editor. For this tutorial I used Krita, a free software, but I recommend you use Affinity Photo or Photoshop. Inside Krita, convert the PNG to grayscale color space. The structures can be in full color if you wish, but it wastes more resources. Why recommend you use grayscale? I stop a while this chapter, because this is an important step for structures. In order to work properly, the structures and art surfaces must have black at 100% and white around 40%. If you are used to image manipulation, you know what I mean. But if you are unexperienced, don't worry, I will explain it. If you don't do that, any art surface or structure will behave incorrectly. Some brushes will not paint entirely, or will paint too much. If you don't do this, many images you download or buy will not work correctly as structures. Now let's continue. Go to Filter menu, select Adjust and finally Color Curves. This is a value curve. The bottom left handle is for 100%, which means black. The top right handle is for 0%, which means white. The white must be at around 40%, so the image must look more gray. The black must be at the same position as the darkest value of the image. In this case, move this handle to the right. You will see it on the canvas. When it starts losing detail on the dark values, you must stop. The last step is to set the DPI to 300. This isn't important for structures, but for art surfaces it's the most important setting. Save your file. Open your Rebelle Resources folder. For convenience, I added a link in my desktop, so I don't need to do each time all steps in Rebelle. Open the Structures folder and drop your image here. The next time you open Rebelle, it will be available on your library. Now I will show you how to tweak any texture to be used both as paper and structure. Open the texture in Krita. First, we're gonna change it to grayscale mode. Adjust the color curve enough so the image have both black and white colors. We make this to see if the image has different shading zones, which is the case. Change the canvas to a square size. Don't make it too small, otherwise the paper will look too repetitive. Also change the DPI or PPP to 300, this is important for papers in Rebelle. In order to be used as paper, any texture must be seamless, otherwise it will not look good. Click on View menu and select the option Wraparound Mode. This mode makes the creation of seamless textures much easier. I noticed that there's a bug on Krita when you use this mode, but it seems it's only visual. Now search the Clone tool. It's like the cloner tool in Rebelle, it serves to copy one zone into another zone. This will help a lot. We use the clone tool to correct the imperfections and look seamless. We keep using it until everything looks as even as possible. You may notice that the visual bug disappears when I'm using the clone tool. The last step is to tweak the black at 100% and white at 40%, the same we did on the previous chapter. To do that, we use the color curves. I tweaked a bit more, to have more contrast. When we are satisfied, we save it as PNG. Open the Rebelle Resources folder. Open the Papers folder. I created a tests folder and I dropped the PNG here, but you can drop the texture on any folder. Now we have the paper installed. Open the structures folder and drop the PNG here. I used my tests folders. It starts to have some structures. Now you have the structure installed. The next time we will open Rebelle, both paper and structure will be available. You can check how the texture looks and interacts with your brushes. If you need, you can tweak the texture a little more. You may have a nice old paper image or a grunge background. In this case, it's hard to create a seamless texture. But you want your brushes interact with this image. In addition, you also wish to have some paper grain. I will show you how to do it. In Rebelle, select your canvas size. The color doesn't matter, you may select the paper you wish. Import your image into Rebelle and resize it before you press enter. Now you can choose any paper. I selected the wonderful Canaf. Open Visual Settings and make sure the paper texture setting is at maximum value. Now you can see both paper and your imported image. Now we're gonna use a new Rebelle 7 feature, the filter layer. On your layers panel, click the button New Filter Layer and select Desaturate. This will make look it in grayscale. Save your image as PNG. Now you can delete the filter layer, we don't need it anymore. Open the PNG with Krita. Make sure it's in grayscale color mode. Open the Filer menu. Select Adjust, then Color Curves. We will make the same as the other chapters. Remember, the black at 100% and white at around 40%. Make some adjustments to have more contrast. When you finish, save your PNG. Drop this PNG over Structures panel in Rebelle. Select your new structure and press Enter to apply. Now you have your custom structure with your image features and paper grain. Test it and tweak it in Krita if you wish. In this chapter, we finally will use the structures for painting. You can use the structures for abstracts, decorations, and any purpose, it's very versatile. But I will show you how to add more natural brush strokes when you paint a landscape. This is a landscape painting, still unfinished. I will show you only the part when I'm using structures. My next tutorial will be about this artwork and how to paint landscapes with watercolor in Rebelle 7. So, if you are interested, please subscribe and you will be notified when it will be available. I will use structures to paint the leaves on the tree. Painting leaves is often a hard task when painting digitally. You can use any leaf splatter brush, but it looks too artificial and unnatural. Instead, we need to paint using any texturing tool. On traditional media, especially in watercolor, usually we use a brush with little pigment and water. This makes that our brush strokes are very affected by paper grain. This creates small irregular shapes on the paper that simulates leaves very well. We will mimic this technique using structures. This way the leaves will look more natural and more artistic. To start, we add any structure to our canvas. You can use any structure. Even using any canvas paper can do the same thing, but structures can be resized and rotated easily, and you don't need to change the canvas paper. You can test the structures to see which one appeals more to you. Each one has a different effect. This is a watercolor painting, so I will use any of the dry brushes available in watercolor category. First, I add the dark green color. Try to not use strong pressure, otherwise the brush stroke will not be affected enough by the structure. You can invert the structure, this way the texture will be inverted. This is a way to have more variety in the texture, without having to choose any other brush or structure. If you want even more texturing and randomization, open the visual settings and change the texture setting to maximum. Select the lighter green and start painting the lighter areas. You can change the structure to add more texture variety. Keep painting until you are satisfied. In watercolor, take caution to don't overdo it. Keep it as simple as possible. In the next tutorial, I will explain you Rebelle watercolor more in deep. You can apply this technique to paint any natural element, like rocks, pebbles or trunk details. And this is it about structures. I hope you liked this tutorial and learned something new. If this is the case, please subscribe. This way I will know you are interested with this kind of content. Be happy and see you in the next video.